okay? You weren't here yesterday. Yes. You weren't here yesterday. Let me give you something. This is what we were looking at, okay? You just won't have it filled out while we talk. Who else was not here yesterday? If you were to, that's right, I know Daisy, I know you weren't here. Ronaldo wasn't here, but he's not here either. Those of you who were not here while we're talking, if you could just fill out what we were, did you hear this? Right. You could just kind of write in the boxes the things we're talking about, okay? So we don't need to look at the text right now, if you could put the other paper in front of you. Because I'm interested in seeing, and I think everybody is interested in seeing what, or hearing what we did. Okay? So, come here, have a seat, honey. Take your stuff out. I think that's enough light. I just wanted to put up the image again that we looked at yesterday. And nobody should be sewing or anything else. You should just have that piece of paper in front of you. And the first thing that I asked you guys to take a look at when we looked at this was what? What is the first thing we did on that piece of paper? Well, there's a box before that. The credit line. So we have a little piece of information from that credit line, right? So we found out that, where is this taking place? And where's the Louvre? In France, and that it's where? Where can we find this? Right, somebody's house. Maybe, you know, unless Faith Ringgold still has it. It could be her own private collection. I really don't know, because I never found any other information about that. So the next thing I asked you to look at was just to describe, right? And I don't want to know what you think about this. I just want to know what you described it as. So if you're not looking at me and if you're hiding in your paper, I'm going to call your name. I'm going to ask first for a volunteer.
I'm sorry, my headphones on.
Who wants to, it's okay, I know you'll turn it off. Who wants to volunteer some descriptive information? It's probably the easiest information, right? What's some of the descriptive information that we have? What do you see?
Different patterns.
Okay, so you see some different patterns. Very good. We're using those element of art words. What else? There's 5 girls wearing colorful dresses. Where are those patterns, Ariana?
I didn't know it was patterns.
In the dresses.
In the dresses, we see patterns in the dresses. Where else do we see patterns? On the floor. Okay. Anywhere else?
Around
On the wall.
around the keyboard.
Around this thing? What is that thing?
The board.
Around the painting.
Oh, around the painting. So you're looking at like these patterns, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm talking about
I thought you were talking about these.
that. No.
Are those patterns?
Yeah.
I don't know, are they?
No.
What's a better word, I think?
Frame.
Well, yeah, they're frames, but like when we're looking at elements of art,
Line.
there's line. Yeah. There's line.
Symmetry.
Where's symmetry?
In their picture.
In the picture? What picture?
The first picture you was just,
This one?
yeah. It's
Just
the
be-
symmetry. No, it ain't. Never mind.
No, it ain't.
In the
Very
frame,
good.
it's some symmetry though.
Good to see that you know that it's not symmetry. That's it. But we're talking about the frame, and you have a hint of a word on your paper. What's on your paper? It's on the question. If he has one of those elements, I think they're better fit for the frame. Texture, yes, thanks. Very good. So, we have 5 girls, we have them in patterns, we see some texture, we see, what else do you see? What do we leave out?
The painting.
The paintings, we see paintings. Okay? Of the Mona Lisa, we know that painting. Okay. Do you think, well, do you think the Mona Lisa's famous?
Yes.
Okay, so if that's famous, do you know what these are? Do you think they're famous?
Yep.
Yeah, they're famous too. So, we're gonna skip down, we did, enough of a description. Let's skip down and take a look at context. Because it's a little harder. That's where I asked you guys to read about the artist. So I asked you, what are the connections? What do you know about the artist or about history at the time the work was done that helps you understand this artwork? And I asked you to cite 2 pieces of evidence from the handout. So, we know some information about Faith. What can we kind of connect with this quilt that she did? Painting, quilt, the whole deal. What can we connect with now that we know some things about her? Hold on, it's a what? A tribute to her mom?
Yeah, that's right. Because when she said, it looked like that. She said her mom used to take her.
Her mom used to take her to the museum.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was in, the first reading, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we get any context from the second reading? Did anybody kind of cite any of that evidence from text number 2? Yeah.
Yeah, she helped found the women students and artists for Black liberation in order to make sure that African American art exhibitions equally represented men and women.
Okay, so how does that relate to this?
Saw women
There's a woman in the painting. What else? They're African American women. Yeah. So how does that, let's go a little bit deeper. You're talking about what? Restate what you just said? Because I usually do the restating, but I want you to just restate it again so everyone can hear. That's okay, we'll wait a minute till you find it. It's not a big deal, no pressure.
Oh, yeah,
Just say it again, what you were reading, your evidence.
she helped found the women students and artists for Black liberation.
Help found the women's and Black
liberation.
and Black students.
She helped women students and artists.
Women students, and what did it have to do with them being Black?
The African American art exhibition equally represented men and women.
African American art exhibition that equally represents men and women. So, we have these African American women here. When we're going to talk about in the next question, let's go to the next question. Well, we talked a little bit about, we want to make some inferences and find out about what was the message. I'll read the question again, real quick to you, because I want you to look at what you wrote. In the inference, it looks like, guess what the artist's message is, based on the clues you wrote about in the description, and what you know about the artist or history at the time the artist worked. What's going on? What is the mood or the message? Back up your guess with evidence. Why do you think this, and what have you based your opinion on? So, we have these images that you just described. We know a little bit about Faith Ringgold. What do you think this whole thing means, based on that information? Who has written down something that they'd like to read? I don't want to just bang on you, because I'll probably pick on somebody who's hiding. Okay, who wants to just give it a try? What they wrote down. Shalia. Can you read what you wrote? Read it nice and loud so everyone can hear. Pay attention.
Understand Faith Frank Ringgold. Her message is to tell
That's excellent, you know. She did this to talk about African Americans having an art exhibit. You know, do you think that there's a lot of African American art at the Louvre? Why? Why? Why wouldn't there be? What do we see here? What kind of art? Hmm?
I don't know.
What kind of art would you say this is? Old? Spanish?
Italian.
Oh, famous. Old, famous. What else?
Italian.
Italian? Yeah, it is, actually. What else? Italian kind of puts it in that European context, right? So it's from Europe. And is it have anything to say about anybody of color? Does that art have anything to say about anybody of color? No? Why? Why? When we see famous works of art, is this what, you know, everyone describes this as famous? Is this the only kind of art that's famous? No. So what kind of other art would you say could be here? If it wasn't this, what might there be? What's some other famous art you know about? Speak up, because I can't hear you. You gotta just raise your hand and speak up. Anybody, no one has a clue about any other famous art? What? Collages. There's some famous artists that have done collages, yes. Sculptures. What about when we talk about people of color? What kind of art would you associate with not white? White, you know, this is white European. This is the context that they say, well, this is famous art. Only if you're a white European can you do famous art. Is that true? Okay, so tell me why it's not. What kind of ideas do you have around that context? What have you seen that has told you something different? You can think about it a minute. What have you seen that's told you something different, that this is not the only kind of art that's famous? What have you seen? Well, those pictures on the wall they're famous. And the one that she did is also famous. Excellent. You know, we know that she's an African American woman. You know, and that she can do famous art too. And she has, you know, she's pictured these kids here and these people, you know, in that context of, you know. There's another student of mine that made a comment, and I just want to throw it out to you, even though it's not your own comment. But she said, this was in another class, she said, well, I think the mother brought the kids there to show them that they can do art like this. That that's possible, and it's kind of like what Faith Ringgold's mother did for her. She brought her to museums and said, you know, hey, you can do this. You know, maybe not this, but you can do famous art. So I want to move on to the judgment part. And this is where I ask, what? Ariana, can you just read that question? Can you read the last question? Because I'm getting tired of talking.
Did the artist communicate what she wanted to you? Is this why do you think this? You must give a reason and back up your thoughts.
Okay, so what did you say?
I don't wanna react.
Oh, please, come on, just read it.
No,
How bad can it be?
it's not, I just don't like reading.
You read the question.
Honest?
Oh. Then now, can you read yours? Please? Just read what you wrote.
I think she did communicate a story in her quotes because they all show some type of emotion since she used them as like a memorial or tribute to her mother when she passed away.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that answer. That's a good answer. Do you guys think she's skillful? Who thinks she's skillful? Edith, what did you write?
Oh, no.
Oh, just tell me what you wrote.
No.
It's not a big deal.
I'll just tell you.
Can I read it?
No.
All right, you read it. Just read it. Come on. You gotta be shy. It'll take you 30 seconds to read. What? Okay, just read it. Oh.
I'll read mine.
Okay, you read yours.
Like, don't make, hey bro, don't make, disedit this, okay?
Bro.
Matt, right?
Yeah.
It's Matt.
You want me to turn it off?
No, he doesn't have to.
No, you good, but just edit it.
All right.
I think, it said, yes, she is skillful, and I do like the artwork. Why? Because she gives great details to what's going on in the story and who she's playing and whether the people are different races from each other, whether they African American or Hispanic or Latino. And it shows a lot of analogous colors in the background of the following paintings, 3 paintings that is shown in the back of the
Awesome. Thank you. Very good.
I get extra credit points for that?
Did anybody else have any other ideas? Okay. All right, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to collect these that you wrote, but don't shift, don't do anything right now. Just hang on a minute. Just hang on a minute. Now I want you to go back to question number 6 on your rubric. And I don't care if you filled it out already, even if you want to cross out some stuff, that's fine. Question number 6 on your rubric asks you to make an analogy with what Faith Ringgold did with what you guys did with your quill. So I'd like you to write the answer to that question, and I'd asked you to wait until we did this to do that.